They're gonna get a Super Bowl out of me. Believe that. Believe that. I'm a Raven. It's on. All year. Every year.
All right, welcome in, everyone. Let's go ahead and just jump right into this one, rip the Band-Aid off. The Ravens lose first loss game of the season. So they lost to the Colts today, 22-19. It was a sort of a weird game. Weather was definitely a factor, I think, for both teams. But let's just jump right in. We'll start out with the good, the bad, and the ugly like we usually do. But let's flip it this time. Let's talk about the good because there's plenty of bad and ugly to talk about. So for the good, we had a good first drive. It looked smooth. It looked efficient. It looked like the same Ravens team that we saw go against the Bengals only the week before. Gus was running well. He was, before he went out, he was averaging about 5 yards a carry. And honestly, the defense as a whole, overall, they played really well. Kyle Hamilton, obviously he had himself a game, but we'll get to him later. But yeah, good was that. So, the bad, play calling. It seemed less consistent than last week. The poor communication on the Zay fair catch play at the end of the game. I know Harbaugh's already talked about that he thought that there was 1:58 on the clock, or that's what it said up there, and then they moved it back to 2 minutes and 3 seconds, and they weren't able to relay that to Zay, something like that. So, I don't know whose fault that is, or if it's just simply a procedural thing that's an issue. And then, honestly, poor run defense. So, I wasn't as worried about the run defense going into this game, but it certainly was not as effective as it had been in the previous two games. So, and then the ugly, the fumbles were horrendous. I mean, you can't win the game fumbling the ball, 3-4 times? It was insane. The coaching staff really needed to make that a priority because it's been a problem since week 1. So we also had a lot of drops in key moments from Zay, I think Andrews had one, and then the likely one was just the worst. I mean, just the timing of it and where it was on the field and the moment itself, it was just huge. But to that same effect, Lamar had some missed throws that were also an issue. And even if the guys weren't dropping it, if they were open and Lamar can't hit them, that's a problem, right? He started out the game, I think the whole first quarter he was 7 of 7. I don't think he missed a throw. And then the second quarter after the fumbles, it just seemed as though they stopped throwing the ball for the rest of the first half, which, again, that's what I mean by inconsistent play calling. I don't really know what was going on with that. So, all right. So, Lamar missed some throws, but that happens, right? He started out the game well, missed some throws. You got to keep going. So, last part of this, the Ravens, by my count, they had a minimum of 3 chances to put this game on ice before the whole blown pass interference call on Zay. They didn't win the game by their own standards, right? They didn't go out and do the things they needed to do to win the game, correct? So, the refs, they did blow a couple of really pivotal calls late in the game, and that did not help the Ravens for sure. And it was not a well-called game by the refs. And this is also true, right? So these two separate things can be true at the same time. It's not the refs' fault we lost the game. It's the Ravens' fault they lost the game. But they definitely missed at least 2 penalties by my count, which would have all but guaranteed us at least a chance to win the game, if not outright gave us the win. All right, so moving on. Let's talk about some good things anyway. The offensive player of the game for us, it still has to be Lamar. You can put this in the good portion as well. So his ground game was excellent. He's his best rushing game of the season so far, and statistically it wasn't crazy from the passing aspect, but he was still very accurate early on. He went 22 of 31 for 202 yards and no touchdowns through the air or interceptions. He did have the 2 fumbles, and he was sacked 4 times, but on the ground, he went 101 yards on 14 carries, which is over 7 yards per carry, and he had 2 rushing touchdowns. So, a bit of a okay day passing the ball and a very effective day running the ball. I really would have liked to see him running the ball more often later in the game. I'm not one that prefers to see Lamar on design runs too much, just because of the risk that it shows to him. But with Gus out, and then I think Gordon went down a little bit later, or he was out of the game, and it was just... Or no, I'm sorry, Drake went out, and then Gordon was the only one left. But and Gordon was running well at the end of the game. He actually was, and he caught a couple of really important passes from Lamar. But I wanted to see Lamar step up in those late game moments when we really needed him. So defensive player of the game for me is probably Brandon Stevens. No, I'm just kidding. It's Kyle Hamilton. Like, we all know that. Yeah, he's so much fun to watch out there when he really gets in his element. So 3 sacks, 2 tackles for a loss, 9 total tackles, and a pass defended. But even more than that, he seemed to be involved in like almost every single play. If it wasn't Roquan or Queen there, like it was Hamilton. He's a great open field tackler, had amazing play at the line of scrimmage. And Brandon Stevens, he had a good game. Like, and you can't be mad at him for the catch by Pittman, because that catch was just crazy. Like, his helmet's coming off. Gino was in there making a hit as well. He laid a lick on him too, and he still, and he didn't even make the catch initially. He bobbled it in his hands, but was able to still pin it against his body as he went to the ground. That was crazy. So that's not on Stevens. He had a great pass breakup later in the game. So yeah, he did play pretty well, but no, Kyle Hamilton, this was his game. So let's talk about some of the impact players for the Colts, because there were a few of them. So Moss, obviously, I mean, he had that amazing catch, but Moss, Pittman, Franklin, and Ibukman, I think I'm saying that right. If I don't, I apologize. And of course, Matt Gay. I mean, seriously, what a performance from him. Because this is actually what I think. I was thinking this during the game. I'm like, is this what it's like for other teams to face off against Tucker? Because I don't know if you're like me, but every time I saw him line up to kick, I'm like, this is good. He's going to make this. It just had this air about him that I'm like, crud, he's not going to miss this kick. And he didn't. He was just on fire. And honestly, besides the perfectly thrown pass by Minshew and the great catch by Moss for the touchdown, that I don't blame Patrick Queen for. Like, yes, he could have played the ball better. He could have been in better position or whatever, but I said going into this game, I said running backs catching passes out of the backfield has been a problem for us all season. And to be honest, it's been kind of a problem for the Ravens in general the past few years. But I'm not upset about that. That was their only touchdown. But other than that, Matt Gay was the Colts' offense today. He hit from 31, then 54, 53, 53, and then 53. He had 3 53-yard field goals in a row. The last 2 53s came at 1:02 to play in the fourth quarter, and then in overtime to win the game. It's incredible. So, no knock on him for that whatsoever. Tucker missing the 61-yarder. I've seen a couple people get kind of up in their britches about it. Like, relax. He's missed a 59-yarder and a 61-yarder. Like, I'm not going to sit here and play head coach or offensive coordinator or whatever and be like, oh, he should have been given an opportunity. Let's talk about what's next for the Ravens, because, yeah, this game was not what we as Ravens fans anticipated or hoped for, but this is also the Ravens, right? I mean, some people were already saying this is a bit of a trap game. I know some people were even telling me in the comments, like, hey, this isn't going to be as easy as you think. And I think if we had played the same type of game that we played against the Bengals, I think it would have been. I mean, the pressure on Lamar was, it certainly wasn't as good of an offensive line performance as it was against the Bengals. I don't think it was as bad as week 1, but it was certainly not last week's. But his accuracy in throwing the short ball, he was getting the ball out. But anyway, yeah. So what's next for the Ravens is they go on to Cleveland, right? Like, as fans, we don't get the benefit of the mindset of we're done with that game, let's move on to next week, right? So we got to sit here and mull over this until we get our next opportunity to watch our team and hope that they succeed. So Cleveland went out there, they got their win, and now we just have to play our game going into Cleveland. We need to improve on the things that we did not do well. Ball security's got to be at the top of the list. You can't win the game if you're giving the ball away. John said so after the game. He's like, you can't be giving away possessions like that. Hopefully we hear back about some of these injuries that happened, because Gus with the concussion, then, Stone left for a little bit, but he came back. Bateman, I guess there was some hamstring tightness. It's been rough with the injuries. Hopefully we might start to at least hopefully hear about some guys coming back to practice that were banged up at the start of the season. I don't know what the situation is with Marlin or Linderbaum or Stanley, or it's too long of a list already. But anyway, get the video out soon about the preview for the Cleveland game. So looking forward to that. Looking forward to getting back on to winning football. This is still a great team. They have a lot of potential, and when they're firing on all cylinders, I still do believe this team can bang with anybody in the league. So I don't know about Miami right now, because 70 points is crazy, but we'll deal with that when we deal with it. Anyway, all right, guys. Well, tough loss, but we're on to Cleveland, right? So I'll see y'all in the next one. Have a good night. Bye.